Hi everyone, I'm Leanne and today I'm going to be hauling some books. So I have quite a lot of books to talk to you about today. I have 17 that have come onto my shelves just through my own decision making, and then an additional 7 that are books that I've got for work. So as always, I will talk you through the books that I've got for myself in detail, and then we will whiz through the workbooks at the end. So the first book I have is Why God is a Woman by Nin Andrews. Now this was actually sent to me by Charlotte over at Coiny Reads, and I have a story behind this coming into my life. So this is a poetry book that's been on my radar for quite a few years and I never got around to reading it. And then Charlotte was unhauling some books and I was like, can I have that one? Please and thank you. And then later on, Charlotte messaged me saying that she was in the Lindt store and she'd seen some tiramisu Lindors, you know, like the little truffly ball things they do. And I love my position in my friendship groups as the tiramisu gal. I probably don't need to hold a book up for this bit. Now I will say, I feel like tiramisu has become one of those like trendy food words that is just being like slapped on everything. Like I've recently seen tiramisu Easter eggs and it's just being used as a trendy word instead of the word coffee, because I feel like in a chocolate, for instance, you can't really capture like a tiramisu. It just means coffee. And don't get me wrong, the combination of coffee and chocolate is possibly one of my favorite things in the world. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm the tiramisu gal. And because Charlotte is the kindest person in the world, she was like, oh, I'll pop some in when I send you that book. And this made me so happy. Fast forward a couple of weeks and I am so sick. I am so poorly. I am like bed rotting for several days. It's not good. And then a parcel arrives that has this in it. And I thought Charlotte meant she was going to put like a couple in. And I was thrilled about that. No, she sent a whole damn box. And when I tell you, in the depths of my sickness, this was the greatest thing that had ever happened to me. I was so happy and can confirm they're absolutely delicious. Anyway, the book. So Why God is a Woman is a collection of poetry, but it's kind of like vignettes, and it explores this like female utopia and all of the kind of gender norms and power dynamics are flipped. And I think that's going to be a really interesting premise to explore. I didn't realize that it was written in vignettes, and I don't read a lot of stuff that's told in that format, so I'm intrigued to see how I get on with this. And then another poetry collection I picked up was A Working Girl Can't Win by Deborah Garrison. So I hadn't heard of this poet before, but I was obviously drawn to this collection. So these poems are concerned with the tribulations and occasional triumphs of being a woman in their 20s living in New York City. It's been described as quite edgy and zestful, with short lines and very kind of snarky uses of rhyme, and that is exactly my kind of taste in poetry, so I am expecting that I will really enjoy this one. So at the end of February I went to Paris and we got the Eurostar, which I'd never done before, and I would highly recommend it. But whenever I go traveling, I do always like to pick up a couple of things that I use as souvenirs. So I typically always get like a bookmark, a postcard, and probably a book as well. But I don't like to get something that is like too lengthy. Like I don't typically like to get something that is going to substantially add to my TBR. I see it very much as like a little souvenir. So the thing that is perfect is getting a little black classic. And I picked up The World is Full of Foolish Men by Jean de La Fontaine. These are tales told in verse from the 17th century. I don't really know anything about it going in, but I'm very much looking forward to reading it. And this quote line that starts the book to give you a little bit of a taste says, "The pleasure is twice as sweet when you cheat a cheat." I think this is one that I'm going to get a lot of fun from. Now, where we were staying in Paris was like bookshop central. It was completely accidental. We didn't really look too closely at what our hotel was that near, but it was really in amongst all of the amazing bookshops that there are in Paris, and we were literally less than 5 minutes walk away from Shakespeare & Co. I felt quite overwhelmed in Shakespeare & Co. It just felt like one of those places that had so much kind of literary history in the walls, and I knew I definitely wanted to buy something in there, but I couldn't quite figure out what I wanted to get, and I went back and forth thinking about a lot of different things. Again, I didn't want to add something too substantial to my TBR, so I was thinking like, are there any books here that I was probably going to pick up anyway? Are there any books here that I've already read but I don't own copies of? And I was going back and forth in my mind for ages, and then it really quickly escalated from me not being sure if I even wanted to buy something to deciding yes, I definitely did want to buy something. Yes, I wanted to buy something, but I didn't want to add it to my TBR. And then I bought these 4 like Gen Z Shakespeare editions. So these are very much like targeting a younger demographic, obviously. So I have Macbeth, I have Much Ado About Nothing, Romeo and Juliet, and Hamlet. Now I have read and seen all of these plays, so they're not adding to my TBR. Each of them has a foreword from a young adult author. And yeah, I mean, they are clearly going for that younger demographic, and I think it's great that editions like these exist and make older texts more attractive to younger readers. But I don't know quite what came over me when I bought these, because that's not my relationship with Shakespeare. Like, I don't have the kind of relationship where I feel the need for it to be made more attractive or accessible to me. I really enjoy Shakespeare. I have for many years. I enjoyed reading Shakespeare at school and university. I go to the Globe pretty regularly, like a few times a year. But I just thought these were really nice. I thought they were very pretty. Could I have just bought them in a bookshop here? Yes, I could have, but I wouldn't have gotten the nice stamp then. You can also get As You Like It and A Midsummer Night's Dream in these editions, so I think I'm probably gonna have to do that and complete the 6-book collection. Another purchasing decision where I'm not sure quite what came over me was getting The Baby Dragon Cafe by A.T. Qureshi. Please let me know down in the comments if you've read this one and what you thought of it, because this was quite the impulse buy. It's about Saphira, who opens a cafe for customers with pet dragons, but turns out this is actually a really difficult business to run and sustain because the dragons keep setting fire to stuff. Then we have local heartthrob and gardener Aidan, who has a disobedient dragon that is really hindering him taking care of his plants. So he and Saphira come to an agreement that he will give her enough money to keep the cafe afloat in exchange for her training his dragon. And of course, there is a romance between this pair. As I said, if you've read this one already, I'd be really keen to hear your thoughts on it, because I'm just not sure what to think about it. Like, I definitely wanted to be reading more cozy fantasy, and I feel like that ticks the box, but I'm just not sure what kind of expectations to go into this book with. Then I have a couple of books that I pre-ordered. So I have This Love by Lottie Jeffs. So in this book, we are following May and Ari, who meet in their final year at Leeds University, and instantly they have this kind of magnetic connection. And we follow them as the years pass by and their lives change and evolve, with everything from their romantic partners to secrets that they keep, feelings of grief. And the book is about the connection between these two characters in the midst of all that change and the different directions that life can take you in. I've heard people say this is great for fans of Normal People or One Day, so I have pretty high expectations for this one. I think it's one that I'm really going to enjoy. And then I also pre-ordered Green Dot by Madeline Gray. This is another one that has been very highly recommended to me. It's about a young woman named Hera. She's in her mid-20s. She's in quite a boring, like, office job that she doesn't really care about, and I suppose she's at that kind of liminal stage in her life where she's kind of figuring out how to be a grown-up, what she cares about, how to build the life that she wants. And at work, she meets Arthur. He's older than her and he's also married, but she finds herself entering into a love affair with him, despite the fact that previously she has only dated women. And I believe this novel is about that kind of attraction where you're really pursuing something that is inevitably and ultimately going to lead to nowhere. This is definitely one that I want to read very soon. I also picked up a copy of The Regret by Amy Bonifants. So this is a book that's been on my radar for quite a few years, but I don't think it's been published over here. I think it's only been published in the US. So when I saw a copy of this secondhand, I needed to take it home with me. And this is meant to be quite an unusual novel about a love affair between the living and the dead. It's about Rachel, who for weeks has been noticing the same guy at her bus stop. She finally musters the courage to introduce herself and they immediately hit it off, but turns out he's actually dead. I always really enjoy books that are like a love story with some sort of like unusual twist to them. So I'm very intrigued to see how the premise of this one plays out. So I've quite a few books for younger readers that I've bought in the past few weeks, and of course I bought a copy of Sunrise and the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I just got FOMO. I was genuinely planning on waiting for the paperback for this because this is so big and costs £20, but I got up in the hype, I got the FOMO, and I bought it. I do sort of feel like I need to reread the original Hunger Games trilogy before going into this one. Like, I know I don't actually have to, but I kind of feel like I do. And I did say recently that I wanted to reread the first Hunger Games book with the illustrated edition that I've got. What I might do is reread the first one and then watch the films and then read this. I don't really need to like describe this one to you, right? Like, you know what this is. So I'm gonna move on. I also have a copy of Red Flags by Sophie Jo. So this is a young adult book that has come so highly recommended to me. So many people who has opinions that I really trust have recommended this one. So this is about Poppy and Cam, and Poppy is challenged by her friends to give a relationship a proper go. So she decides that Cam, who is her bus crush, lots of bus crushes in this video, she decides that he is the best possible option. Meanwhile, Cam has also been set a challenge. He has been banned from ending things with the next girl that he dates. So he's trying to do everything he possibly can to get Poppy to end it with him. And that's sort of like dynamic between like someone who always gets the ick and someone that like jumps ship at the first red flag. Both of them not really wanting to make a relationship work, but kind of feeling like they have to because of this challenge. It's such an unusual dynamic and setup for a romance, so I'm really intrigued to see how that unfolds. And I do love when romances do something like unusual with tropes, so I hope I enjoy this one. I picked up a copy of Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. So this is a Heartstopper novella, so it follows obviously Nick and Charlie, but rather than being in a graphic novel format, it's told in prose. And it is set when Nick is heading off to university, but Charlie is still at sixth form. I have heard mixed things about the Heartstopper novellas, so I'm intrigued to see what I think of this one, and I really wanted to collect all of Alice Oseman's books in these editions because they've been reissued with more kind of like graphic covers, and I really like these ones that like I remember from when I first started reading Alice Oseman books years ago. So I think I've got all of them now apart from this winter, which is like the Christmas novella. In my book haul for the Irish Readathon, I mentioned that I found a new secondhand bookshop that I'm going to gatekeep from the rest of London so none of you can find it. And it is there that I picked up all of these children's books, including Varjak Paw by SF Said. This is a very like well-known, well-respected children's novel about a cat and him learning this like secret martial arts for cats. And he has to use this to survive in a city filled with like cat gangs and dangerous dogs and this strange thing called the vanishing. This book has come up in so many different conversations and has been mentioned to me so many times recently that when I saw it in the shop, I was like, this is destiny. I need to read this book. Then I also have When Life Gives You Mangoes by Corinne Gettin. So in this book, we are following Clara, who lives in a small village where not very much happens, and she is spending her days eating ripe mangoes that have fallen from the trees, running outside and spending time with her best friend. But there is one thing that is not quite right in her life, and that's the fact that she cannot remember anything about the previous summer. Then, when a girl named Rudy arrives from England, things begin to change. They start spending a lot of time together. Her best friend is now distancing herself from her. And while Rudy and Clara roam the island together, they begin to discover secrets. And Clara's memory begins to return. So it's quite a short one, but sounds quite unlike anything that I've read in this age space before, and I'm intrigued to hear what that secret is. I picked up a copy of Murder by Narwhal by Alex T. Smith. This was a Waterstones book of the month, I think back in November, and I'm trying to make a greater effort to ensure that I read all of the Waterstones books of a month, at least for the children's category. So this is a funny murder mystery, and it follows the aftermath of Edna's horrible grandfather dying at their family manor the day before his 90th birthday. And everyone in the family is trapped in because of a snowstorm, and everyone is a suspect. So it sounds like it's going to be very unusual, and I'm intrigued to see what I think of it. And then finally, for the books that I got myself, I picked up The Silver Arrow by Lev Grossman. So I absolutely love The Magicians by this author, and I've not read any of his other books. Now, I do think this one is obviously quite a bit younger than The Magicians is. This is a magical middle grade that is packed full of imagination, and we follow Kate, who is given a steam train for her birthday. And through this train, she is whisked away on a magical adventure. As I said, I didn't know anything about this book. I didn't even know it existed, but I just saw that it was a Lev Grossman book, and I would really love to read more stuff from him. So hopefully I enjoy this one. And I don't feel like I've read many books that are like train magical middle grades. Now, very quickly, I'm going to whiz through my workbooks. So I have a proof of The Last Journey by Stacey Gregg. So it was when I was talking about this book in work that Varjak Paw kept coming up. This is told from the perspective of Puskin, who is a cat, who has been told by his mother that he was always destined for greatness. And then after living peacefully with 11-year-old Lottie, things begin to change when birds disappear from the sky and cats are blamed. So Puskin has to come together with his neighborhood cats and lead them away to safety. So it's a really like uniquely told animal adventure story. Then I have Deep Dark by Zora Nabi. So this follows Cassia Thorne, who is like an Enola Holmes type figure, solving mysteries on the streets of Victorian London. But there are also some kind of spine-tingling supernatural elements to the conclusions of the mystery. I have Happy Hills, Mr. Big Fluff Rules by Sophie Henn. So this is the third book in the Happy Hills graphic novel series that are just so bonkersly brilliant and funny. I find these so entertaining, even reading them as an adult. Diary of Puss in Boots by Ben Miller. So this is part of the Fairy Tale Woods series, following diary entries from well-known characters from fairy tales, in this instance, Puss in Boots. Wild Magic, The Legend of the Black Lion by Abiola Bello. So this is like 6+ in age range, and it is highly illustrated as well by Emma McCann. And we are following a pair of twins, Misha and Ziggy. One of them can shapeshift into animals and one of them can talk to animals. And using these powers, they are able to help solve the mystery of a missing black lion in Ethiopia. I have This Story Is a Lie by Benjamin Dean. So this was the teen book in World Book Day books this year. And it is a teen thriller set in a school. And then I have Close Protection by Eden Victoria, which is like a thriller bodyguard romance. A very whistle-stop tour of the workbooks there. Whenever I talk about quite a few workbooks in quick succession, I always find myself going into like work pitching mode. So I do try and keep it quite brief. And then maybe in like wrap-ups, we can talk about them in a bit more detail. But yeah, quite a few books have come onto my shelves recently. Do leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've read any of them, what you thought of them. I'd be really keen to hear your opinions, whether they are positive or negative. I don't mind hearing both perspectives before I go into reading something. I'm trying to think what emoji I want you to leave me. There's got to be like a red flag emoji, right? So if you want to let me know you're here but you don't have anything specific to say, leave me a red flag. That is it for me today. I hope you're well and I'll speak to you in my next video.